Cheers, guys. Epix 911, welcome to the Tuesday, April 4th, 2017 edition of VR News. Like we have the last couple of days, we're going to start with some gaming updates. The first of which involves a game I just talked about the other day, Batman ArkhamVR. And thanks to Nate, who is a fellow virtual reality YouTuber, we now have a price, basically a sticker price, to put to that game. So I double checked on Steam Store. It is in fact the $19.99 US. He said it was. What do I feel about that? Because the other day I literally said $9.99 to about $14.99 would be the sweet spot where I think that game could sell like hotcakes. A high enough volume that they would have more profit than if they price it too high and not sell as much, even with the profit margin difference. Now, $20, look, my initial reaction isn't one of outrage. Let's just put it that way. Had it been $39 or higher on the PC, it would be. I personally don't think it's the sweet spot it needs to be. But, you know, I'm not going to go crazy about $20 US. How about you guys? What are your thoughts on that? Knowing how long the game is, and especially interested in those of you who've played it on the Sony, and maybe like me also have PC VR. What are your thoughts? And then I guess obviously those of you buying it for the first time, regardless of platform, what do you think of $20 based on what you've heard? Next game to update is Serious Sam. So true to their word, they have now released the second game in the classic series in VR. Now, I really enjoyed the first. Didn't enjoy it as much as Doom 3. Don't think I'm going to, enjoy it necessarily as much as some other games that get translated. But it was fun. And it was definitely hours upon hours of entertainment. You're not through that game in 60 minutes, right? There's several hours of gameplay there. Price, normally $39.99. There's a discount during this week, $29.99 for the game US. You can also get it as part of a bundle. So other Serious Sam games, plus this one, discounted price, $82.47 instead of $119.97 US. Next game update, Star Trek Bridge Crew. So the folks at UploadVR, they've had an opportunity to play a more recent build of the game and discuss their thoughts on Bridge Crew. One of the things they addressed directly, which was awesome for me, because it was a bit of a burning question, is how different the ships would feel. That was one of the first things they mentioned in the article, that, for example, the communication required. So for those of you who don't know, it can be played solo, but it functions best co-op multiplayer. At least I'm pretty sure it can be solo. I'll have to confirm that. But for sure, co-op multiplayer. You can play with 3 other individuals. There's 4 bridge positions that can be manned. So 4 stations, right? And you require communication because sometimes systems are going to overlap. Engineer might need shields for one thing, and navigation may use shields or combat, whatever that station is. So in the article, he stated that the original Enterprise required far more communication and more improved communication to be able to get through the scenarios, for example, than the Aegis, which is one of the newer ships that you can play in the game. So that's good to hear, because I was definitely wondering about that. And honestly, can't wait until the end of May. Definitely a game I'm going to hunt down. All right, next game and last for the updates, Star Wars mod for Robo recall. We had to think it was going to happen eventually. Sure enough, user Tonsta31 of MGS Studios, he posted the first version of this just over a month ago, refined it somewhat over the last few weeks. You essentially get a lightsaber and some cool-ass Star Wars sound effects for your laser guns. So if you're a big Star Wars freak, there you go. Mod for you for Robo Recall. Next story, the CaptoGlove, a VR hand controller that just funded on Kickstarter. Now, Normally, I'm pretty clear about Kickstarter, not a big fan about reporting stuff on there, just based on, the dicey history of a lot of failed Kickstarters. But news is still news, and I'm not against Kickstarters, and I mentioned that before. My latest Torment, Tides of Numenaria, the box, just arrived the other day, and it's freaking fantastic. So definitely support the ones. I'm just very selective in what I support and what I report. Now, this CaptoGlove, let's talk about it for a second. So the CaptoGlove is different than your typical haptic feedback glove. The difference is this is trying to mimic being a hand controller, whereas the other haptic gloves on the market, the majority of them, they're busy trying to be real hands and allow you the gestures, the finger movements, and the type of feedback you would get for manipulating objects in a game with your actual hands. Now, I've stated many times in my Quick Look series, for example, for me, it's all about the right controller for the right job. I will not play Elite Dangerous without my HOTAS. Just won't be done. I have. Don't enjoy it. Mouse, keyboard, forget it. Gamepad, hell no, forget that. HOTAS, that's it. Racing cockpit games, steering wheel and pedal set, absolutely. Some retro games, gamepad. Retro arcade games, arcade cabinet. It's got to be the right controller for the right job. So that puts me in an awkward position with the CaptoGlove because my initial instinct is I don't like it. I don't want to use my hand as a controller in games unless that's the purpose of my hand in the actual game. So that's my opinion. Where do you guys stand on that? Do you like it? And shows some neat stuff, but really for me, not a big deal. Now, they did fund $50,000 US is what they were asking. $59,000 is what they're at. 19 days to go. So that's about 11 days they've been online to raise those funds. It's going to communicate via Bluetooth 4 and offer about 10 hours of charge time. So link in the description below if you're interested in finding out more. Let's chat about an industry veteran, Peter Molyneux. Now, Peter Molyneux is a game developer, you want to say critically acclaimed or infamous. I guess you can make probably arguments for both. Now, Goddess, speaking about Kickstarters that leave a bad taste in people's mouth, Goddess, definitely one of those. And, he's been involved in some controversy in the past. But let's be clear here. So this article about Peter, the reason I'm talking about it, is titled, Peter Molyneux Worries VR is Being Oversold to Consumers Before the Industry is Ready. The other thing that can be said about Peter is we're pretty aware of his stance on VR. And I can pull up about 3 or 4 articles instantly from the last 3 years that drive home the simple fact that Peter isn't a fan of VR, period. So when he has an opinion on it, take it with a big grain of salt. So let's dissect his opinion. So he feels that it's being oversold to consumers before it's ready. I don't think that's the case at all. You could make an argument for being overhyped, possibly. What you're told it can do versus what it can actually do. But oversold, those semantics are important. And I don't think many of us feel cheated after trying VR. I think most of us feel like we got more than we had hoped for and are very realistic about what it's able to offer now versus what we can expect in the future. I'm pretty confident if you took a poll, every single user, that would be, that would represent the majority of people. But yeah, sure, there may be some that felt that it was oversold to them, but I'm not one of those, and I don't think a lot of you are. But if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below. Next up, upcoming Steam changes that could improve VR content saturation. So before we jump right into this, let's just provide some background on the story. So Steam recently played host to a couple of YouTube gamers, Jim Sterling and Total Biscuit, both of whom are fairly well known in gaming YouTube circles, and basically introduced the new green light replacement system to them. So this is the system that's going to charge to put your game up on Steam, as opposed to getting people to vote for your game like a popularity contest. The thought being that one of the indirect benefits to that is going to be less crap. In other words, of the 1,000 VR games that we have, probably 900 are not what we would personally consider fun or a good time, right? I'm just rough on that estimation. That percentage could be different. But one thing I don't think we can argue is whatever that percentage is, a massive chunk of the 1,000 VR titles are pretty crappy, right? So is that going to make a difference? Well, it's certainly going to weed out the ones that had no hope of rubbing dimes together, but is economics going to be the factor? No, you could have rich kids or rich adults programming complete and utter crap. They may have the money to buy the tools, right? The Unreal Engines of the world, and all the assets they want from asset stores. But if they don't have the ability, they don't have the talented artists or musicians or UI folks or AI programmers or any of that, it's probably going to be crap regardless. So I'm not sold that it's going to make things better. But is it better than Greenlight itself? Probably. But not so sure that it's going to address that specific issue. Next up, HTC and Valve are celebrating the 1-year anniversary of the Vive by offering a $100 birthday discount. When I say birthday discount, I mean actually literally a birthday discount, meaning you're getting $100 off only on the birthday day. So April 5th is the only day it's going to be $100 off. So if you were waiting for another price break on the Vive of about $100, tomorrow you're going to get your opportunity. But after tomorrow, it's hiked back up to the regular price. Next story, HTC releases marketing video for HTC Vive. Now, I'm not sure if this is China region only or if it's going to be a global commercial. It's kind of neat. It's about 1 minute 48 seconds in length, so that's pretty long for a commercial here in North America, where generally 30-second segments is what you're looking at, unless this contains all the footage, and of that complete package, they've made 5 different 30-second versions. I suppose that's a possibility. What they're trying to do in this commercial is highlight and show what a VR-enabled world might look like, at least according to HTC. And there's some cool stuff in there, and there's some other stuff that makes you scratch your head. But look, I'm all in favor of marketing VR. I don't have commercials, so I can't judge, how much is being shown North American TVs in terms of VR on commercials. But my guess is it's not that good. There's not a lot of marketing being done. So anything is probably pretty good and definitely better than nothing. Now, again, geographically, the distribution of this ad, not sure. If I find out, I will mention it. Next story, Samsung Galaxy S8. Will it or won't it Daydream? Samsung hasn't really given a definitive answer yet. When asked that question by UploadVR, their response was, "We have a great long-standing partnership with Google and we work with them on many fronts. Please stay tuned for further updates." And that's it. Now, Samsung does work with Oculus, of course, on the Gear VR. So they were posed that same question on whether the S8 may see support for Daydream. And Nate Mitchell, who's one of the Oculus executives, said, I don't know what exactly Samsung is going to do is the truth, and we'll see where they land with Daydream. And then he insisted that the partnership between them and Oculus had never been stronger. So again, it doesn't give you any information. I suppose we're going to have to wait and see. My thinking is a general update may bring compatibility, even if Samsung's own updates don't. So we will wait and see on that. Next story, Facebook has expanded their 360-degree live streaming to pretty much everywhere. Globally, it is now available. And they've also added compatibility to some additional 360-degree cameras. So spatial audio has been added, additional cameras, and a complete global rollout. Now, if you're curious about exactly what cameras are supported, check out the link in the description below. You can see which one specifically are targeted for compatibility. All right, guys, that is it for the news. I am off to work on my weekly gaming recap video that should launch either later today or tomorrow night. Guys, hope you're having a great week. As always, cheers.